look, the real question we should be asking ourselves isn't how did the Walmart shrimp get contaminated with radioactive material? The question we should be asking every American is, who the hell is buying shrimp from Walmart? I mean, look, I get it. School supplies, sure. You need like some charcoal briquettes, no problem. Even I would say some clothing items, Walmart's your place to go. But frozen shrimp? I'm just not. Yeah, I'm very particular about where I get my seafood. I prefer to get my seafood, from the sea, not from a frozen bag at Walmart right next to the Freezy Pops and the bags of ice that people use to keep their Coors Light chilled on those hot summer days. What's up? It's true. It's happening. Look at this. I got the story right here. I have the story right here. It's from Eating Well, which is ironic. Recall alert. Walmart recalls frozen shrimp due to potential radioactive contamination. This reminds me of that episode of The Simpsons where there was the fish with like 3 eyes swimming around outside of the radioactive, swimming outside of the, Mr. Burns' nuclear power plant where Homer Simpson worked. And then what's his name? Bart caught it and it made the paper. Anyway, Walmart recalls frozen shrimp due to potential radioactive contamination. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration is urging consumers to not eat certain frozen raw shrimp products, according to a recent safety alert. This is due to a chemical contamination. 2-pound bags. 2-pound bags of Great Value brand shrimp. Not only are you people buying shrimp from Walnut Mart, but you're buying 2 pounds of it? I mean, again, nothing against Walmart. I understand it's the great American. I know that I know that it's a great place to people watch. I know that Sam Walton was, truly a hero of, what happened there? He was a hero of the common man. He was a hero of where did I go? There we go. He was a hero of American capitalism, but come on. Come on already with the shrimp. Anyway, 2-pound bags of shrimp. According to Walmart, the products that are being recalled were sold in the following states: Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, Mississippi, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Texas, and West Virginia. The shrimp is being removed from shelves because it may contain cesium-137, a radioactive chemical that may cause long-term health effects when ingested, including increased cancer risk. You think? I'm just saying, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to your kitchen. I want you to go to your freezer. Maybe you have one of those big industrial freezers in the garage or the basement or whatever. I want you to go to the freezer. I want you to find a bag of, if there's a bag of Walmart shrimp, I want you to take it out and I want you to smack yourself in the head with it. You should not be buying frozen seafood from Walmart. There's so many great options for seafood here in the United States of America. We have some of the greatest seafood fishermen up along the Gulf Coast, along Florida, up along the East Coast, West Coast. We are basically surrounded by water on most sides, except for Canada. We are surrounded on 3 sides by water. There's no excuse for getting frozen radioactive shrimp from Indonesia or wherever else it was. Listen, I appreciate you being here. Thanks again. This is Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. And not only are we saving the Republic today, but we're trying to save your lives. You radioactive shrimp eating people. We're trying to save your lives, and we're going to do as best we can. But the best thing you can do to make sure that you are well informed, not just of all of the political dangers, but now also the radioactive shrimp dangers that are being posed to you every single day. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to subscribe to this program because we're going to bring you all the news and information and inspiration and enlightenment that you need, plus any potential recalls of seafood that could affect you adversely. We're going to bring you all of that. We're going to bring you all of that today. You know what this reminds me of? This is why we need RFK Jr. You know, a lot of people say RFK Jr. is kind of extreme. He lives one of those extreme lifestyles. This is why I'm glad that RFK Jr. is our Secretary of Health and Human Services. You need somebody totally extreme. It's like Doge. Remember, like Elon Musk was like extreme Doge. And then what happens is you get to Washington and you're like, Doge this, Doge that, Doge you, Doge your wife, Doge your mother, Doge everything. And then all of a sudden, Washington, and they're way down here. They're like, let's not do a gosh darn thing ever. They're like, let's just status quo this B word as long as we possibly can while we make lots of money in the stock market. That's basically, so you got Elon Musk saying, we're going to fix everything. And you got Washington saying, oh, no, you're not. And then you kind of meet somewhere in the middle. It's like a tug of war to the middle. But the higher you start, the higher you get. Like if you started here in the middle, like let's do some stuff, and Congress was down here, then you'd only get a little bit done. But I believe that the Health and Human Services Secretary, I believe RFK Jr. is very similar to that. I think that what he's doing with the dyes and the contaminants in our food, what he's doing with the high fructose corn syrup, what he's doing with other, the pharmaceuticals and things like that, it's really amazing. Have you seen, by the way, the Pete and Bobby challenge? I was going to play this yesterday, but I totally forgot. Pete and Bobby. Pete Hegseth, who is the Secretary of Defense, and Bobby Kennedy Jr., who is known as Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services. These two secretaries of two of the largest and most important departments we have, Health and Human Services and, Defense, they got together for a Pete and Bobby athletic challenge, and they put out a video. And I don't know if you've seen this or not, but they're surrounded by, I think, Marines, and they're trying to challenge people to do pull-ups and push-ups. Is that what it is?
1, 2,
yeah, they're doing like planks. They're touching their toes. They're doing sit-ups. There's Bobby Kennedy's jumping up and down.
Jr., you're HHS Secretary. I'm here with Secretary Hegseth from the Department of Defense. And we had our big Pete and Bobby challenge today.
Pete and Bobby challenge, yeah.
50 pull-ups, 100 push-ups. You try to get under 5 minutes. How'd you do?
We got close. I was about 5:25. You were right behind me.
We had a couple of Marines here.
One beat 3 minutes, a couple beat 4 minutes. Pretty impressive.
Okay,
It was President Trump who inspired us to do this. This is the beginning of our tour, challenging Americans to get back in shape, eat better, but also you need to get out and exercise. And we have a challenge. There's another cabinet member who we hope to show up today. We told him there was a cabinet meeting here. But anyway, we want to send out a challenge to Sean Duffy to come and do this.
So Secretary Duffy, you're invited to do the Pete and Bobby challenge. Can you do it in under 5 minutes? 50 pull-ups, 100 push-ups. What do you think?
If you can beat 6 minutes, you can be part of this.
And yes, thank you, President Trump, for setting the example. Presidential physical fitness, make America healthy again, fit, not fat. We're going to have a war-fighting force with young men and women who are prepared to defend the nation. We're doing it as a team. Join us. Appreciate it. Absolutely.
Okay, so
produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so the Pete and Bobby challenge. Okay, the Pete and Bobby challenge. This is a challenge where it's 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups in under 5 minutes. That's the challenge. And if you're listening to the podcast, you weren't able to see the video, but Pete Hegseth, who's like, what, 44? I think he is 40, maybe 45. He's like 40. He's in his mid 40s. Pete Hegseth is in his mid 40s. He shows up at this Marine Corps, gymnasium or this military training facility, wherever they are. He's in the gym. He's got his t-shirt on. I think it's an airborne t-shirt. It looks like he's got his gym shorts on. He's got his sneaks and his socks, and he's ready for a workout, man. He's like, I got my gym clothes on. I'm ready to be here. And he's doing pull-ups, and he's doing push-ups, and he's doing squats and lunges, and he's running, and he's jumping, jacking and jumping and all those things. And I don't know, you can tell I don't know exercises. You can tell I don't know any exercises by name. And so, and he's doing his thing because he's like a military guy. Then he's with Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is 71, by the way, and keeping up. Like, he's 71. During the video, he said, look, I did it just over 5 minutes, and Bobby, you were just behind me. They both did it, I think, under 6 minutes. But the difference is that Pete Hegseth, who's 44 and in proper gym attire, did it in just over 5 minutes. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's 71, did it in jeans, a leather belt, and like work boots. He's like, he rolled on in. His gym clothes are a sweaty t-shirt. I guess it wasn't sweaty when he started, but it's a t-shirt. He's got jeans, a big leather belt with a belt buckle, and really heavy, like, construction or hiking type shoes. And He's out and he's doing the pull-ups. Let me play the video. Let me play the video for you. He's doing the pull-ups. He's doing the push-ups. He's on the ground in jeans. And he's got his shoes. These are not, by the way, they're on a basketball court and they're not regulation court shoes, but he doesn't care. He's like, I'm going to do the pull-ups, I'm going to do the push-ups, and I'm wearing my jeans. He's like Sydney Sweeney. He's got great jeans, this guy. So he's like, yeah, I'm just going to do the Pete and Bobby challenge. I don't know that I could do 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups in 5 months, let alone 5 minutes. But that's the challenge. If you can do 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups in 5 minutes, then you succeed. And you're in peak physical fitness. That's the goal. Look at this guy. This is an insane photo. RFK Jr., 71 years old, pulling up his chin, his muscles just rippling, and he's got jeans on. I mean, he looks like he's filming an episode of Dirty Jobs, not going to the gym. Like, it's really insanity. And all these muscular, like, military dudes, these Marines and whatnot, they're all surrounding him. They're all trying to do the same thing. They're just having a blast there. That's the Pete and Bobby. That's the Pete and Bobby challenge. So here's the goal here's what the government wants you to do. They want you to be able to do 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups in under 5 minutes. And they want you to stop eating Walmart shrimp that are radioactive from Indonesia. And if you can do that, I think we're going to have a very, very healthy, very healthy electorate. All right, so we got a lot of stuff we have to talk about today. First of all, President Donald Trump, and he's still getting a lot of he's still getting guff from the media for what I don't know why, because I mean this is one of the most monumental peacekeeping efforts we've ever seen. What Donald Trump is trying to do with Russia and Ukraine, what he's succeeding in doing with Russia and Ukraine is incredible. And you would think that the media would want to report on something incredible, but no, they don't. They just want to be incredible. Like the media is incredible, as in not credible, right? They're incredible, meaning they're not credible. That's what that means. But if you think about it, if you ever hear, that's how I'm going to start referring to our media. How's the media in the United States of America? Oh, the media in the U.S. incredible. They are incredible. Because they are not at all a credible source of information. And Caroline Leavitt, you may remember, we were all watching her yesterday. She basically handed to him. I'm not going to play the 2-minute clip again, but she basically told them, you guys are lying. You guys are in fact, I'll play a little bit of it.
One thing that has absolutely not changed is the media's negative and downright false coverage of President Trump and his foreign policy accomplishments. From the beginning of this entire process, much of the left-wing media has been actively rooting against the president of the United States in the pursuit of peace.
That is true. That's exactly what we're talking about. That's a great way to put it. The media is rooting against the president of the United States in his efforts toward peace. How does that happen? How is it that the media starts rooting against the president of the United States in his efforts for peace? But that is exactly what's happening. You know who's not rooting against President Donald Trump? 70,000 Buddhist monks. 70,000 Buddhist monks have broken their vow of silence, okay, to nominate Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. Here's a headline I never thought I'd bring you. 70,000 Buddhist monks break vow of silence to nominate President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize.
70,000 monks just broke their vows of silence to nominate Trump for the Nobel.
Dear Mr. President Trump, we are standing here today with hearts full of appreciation. Today, 70,000 Cambodian Buddhist monks are wholeheartedly supportive of our Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet to nominate you for the Nobel Peace Prize. Please accept, Mr. President.
70,000 monks can't be wrong. After Trump brokered a peace deal between Cambodia and Thailand, the monks went ultra MAGA and shaved their heads like Stephen Miller. So 47's thinking about sending them all 70,000 of them Trump 2028 hats. Duty and tariff-free.
That is Jesse Waters, of course, making jokes. But that's, look, it's 70,000 monks coming forward and saying President Donald Trump has done something exceptional. 70,000 monks coming forward and saying, please nominate President Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. You now have multiple different nations. You have Armenia. I always say it. Azerbaijan. You've got India. You've got Pakistan. You've got Israel. Bibi Netanyahu said that he was nominating President Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. Hillary Clinton said that if he can broker a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia, she would nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize. And now 70,000 monks are in that as well. If Donald Trump does not win the Nobel Peace Prize, and I've said this before, it will be the end of the Nobel Prize Committee. They will be killing themselves. The entire world will know once again that they are a biased, liberal, left-wing lunatic organization that has absolutely no merit. They too will be as incredible, meaning not credible, as the press, and they will destroy themselves. And no one will take it, like the Pulitzer. The Pulitzer Prize for literature or for journalism or for whatever, it used to be kind of a coveted thing. It used to be something that people, they looked up to. They sought to, they sought to excel in their journalistic endeavors so that they could maybe win a Pulitzer or a Pulitzer. I don't know, one or the other. And what happened was the New York Times won a bunch of them for false reporting. For false reporting about President Donald Trump and Russian collusion and election interference and all that stuff. They won all these Pulitzer Prizes. Donald Trump was proven to be right. The New York Times was proven to be wrong. And guess what? They still have their Pulitzers. Well, nobody believes the Pulitzer Committee. I mean, it's no longer an honor. Now you win a Pulitzer Prize and you're like, oh, you're just like a kiss-ass leftist elitist. That's all you are. That's how you got the prize. You're not actually good. It's like the Academy Awards or the Golden Globes or any of that. It doesn't matter. You're not actually the best. You didn't make the most money. You just kissed the right butts. That's all it is. It's a big butt-kissing award. But the Nobel Peace Prize, you actually have to do something. And Donald Trump has done more to deserve that probably than any other recipient in history. I mean, Barack Obama won it, and that guy caused more wars than he stopped. Do you remember Barack Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize? And even Barack Obama was like, wait, what? Barack Obama, he was president for like a week. They gave him the Nobel Peace Prize, and he was like, I don't know that I did anything to deserve that, but I'll take it. I'll take the money. I'll take the medal. I'll come into the ceremony. It was the weirdest thing ever. And here's Donald Trump. His first term in office, he should have won it. He didn't. His second term in office, he better win it. If not, it's the end of the Nobel Committee. We've talked about this repeatedly. The New York Times, speaking of which, by the way, this is one of my favorite clips from yesterday. We played it with Caroline Levitt. Just really ripping to shreds the New York Times reporter during the press briefing room for asking a stupid question.
Hey, if the point is to get everybody on the same page, why wouldn't Trump just take the call from Putin while the other leaders were in the room? He said it would be disrespectful to do that. But why is it disrespectful? With all due respect, only a reporter from the New York Times would ask a question like that, Sean. The president met with all of these European leaders at the White House 48 hours after sitting down with President Putin on American soil. In fact, there was so much progress in the readout that was given to these European leaders immediately following his meeting with President Putin that every single one of them got on a plane 48 hours later and flew to the United States of America. And if I could just read for all of you some of the statements from those European leaders yesterday, you had President Zelensky.
Okay, we don't need to go. We heard all those like multiple times. But basically, the New York Times is trying to paint a different view of history than the one that actually exists. They all are. Every single media outlet. Exactly what she said at the beginning of this. They're trying to rewrite history. The history is that President Donald Trump gets elected, that President Donald Trump in 215 days is able to get Vladimir Putin to travel to the United States of America, to visit him on American soil, to talk for 3 hours about potential peace deals and other deals with the U.S. president. And then in 36 hours, he was able to turn around a second summit with 7 European leaders and Volodymyr Zelensky, who all came to the White House, again, on American soil, and met with the president and had a very, very robust and very, very positive meeting where they put forth a plan that they thought would actually bring peace to the region. And then what did President Donald Trump do? He immediately, because he's not going to waste any time, went to his office, placed a phone call to Vladimir Putin and said, here's what we got. Let's talk about the next steps. And he managed to broker a meeting between 2 warring factions. Volodymyr Zelensky, Vladimir Putin, Ukraine, Russia, they are going to meet and they are going to discuss peace between their 2 nations. And the media has a problem with that. The media is trying to make you think they're trying to make history think that Donald Trump bowed down to Putin, kowtowed to Putin, that somehow having him come to the United States of America for a meeting was somehow the wrong move. It was bad. How Donald Trump leaving the European leaders to take a phone call with Putin was bad. Pardon me while I sneeze. This is all falsehoods. It's all media narrative. It's all ridiculous. It's all stupid. But it's all they can do because the left refuses, no matter what history actually says, no matter what the truth is, the leftist media, they refuse. They refuse to be part of a narrative, to be part of a story, even if it's true, where Donald Trump is a good president, where Donald Trump has done something good. The media will not allow themselves to report that President Donald Trump was anything other than chaotic, unqualified, destructive, bad, criminal, all of those things. And in doing so, they're again destroying their own credibility. That is why the American media is incredible. You know who isn't, though? I'll be honest with you. Stephen Smith from ESPN, that guy is like the most credible left-wing elitist journalist that I've ever. Listen to what he said about Ukraine.
We ain't going to act like he caused this now. It's Democrats in office. It was Biden in office when a full-fledged war against Ukraine took place, courtesy of Russia's instigation, no matter what they try to say to Trump. It was Russia that invaded Crimea, and that was under the Obama administration. It was Clinton in office when you made a deal that disarmed the Ukraine and therefore weakened them, leaving them dependent on the United States. And now here they are having to beg for support that they're owed because of what we promised them as a nation. We promised them this. You owe it to the Ukrainians. You absolutely do. I'm not saying I like it. I'm not saying I like spending billions of our taxpayer dollars to them. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is promises made are supposed to be promises kept. You promised them America.
Yeah, that was. I think that's an older clip. But the by the way, anyone ever see Son of a Woman? Does he not remind you of Al Pacino? How he talks to that one? I expect him to go hoo-ah anytime. And that was Son of a Woman is one of my favorite movies. I think it's one of the best movies. It's definitely my favorite Al Pacino movie. But Stephen Smith talks a lot like him. I'm going to start. Should I start screaming like that? Would I have like more inflection if I was like, and we promised them in Ukraine. We promised them. And Obama was the one. It was Obama when they invaded Crimea. I'm going to start. You know what? That takes a lot of energy and it kind of hurts my chest when I'm not going to do that. But he's right. The Democrats, Bill Clinton was the one who went in there and said, now y'all get rid of your nuclear weapons. We don't want you to have any weapons. We'll take care of you. And they did. And then Bill Clinton went off and, chased Monica Lewinsky around the Oval Office. And then it was Obama who allowed Russia to just roll on in to Ukraine and take back whatever they wanted to. And then it was Joe Biden who allowed them to do it again. And Donald Trump was the only thing. He was the only thing that stood between Russia and Ukraine for 4 years. And when Joe Biden and the Democrats did what they did and the election went the way that it went, that's when Vladimir Putin immediately started to plan his assault, immediately started to amass troops on the Ukrainian border, immediately planned the invasion that has now been going on for 3.5 years and killing hundreds of thousands of people on both sides. And they want to blame Donald Trump. They want to say Donald Trump should not have brought Vladimir Putin to the United States. Donald Trump is messing up any chance of peace. Donald Trump's the only one who's ever kept the peace. He's the only one who kept the peace for 4 years when he was first president, and he's the only one trying to put the peace back together now that he's president again. The Democrats and the media and everybody is rooting for war, and a lot of Republicans are too because, well, they make a lot of money. They make a lot of money when there's war. And you know what Donald Trump's rooting for? Donald Trump's rooting. Look, I'm not saying that Donald Trump's not selfish. We all are. Donald Trump wants peace. Why? Because Donald Trump doesn't want to spend an eternity in hell. Donald Trump wants eternal salvation, not eternal damnation. Can I get an amen? And I know that because he said it yesterday on Fox and Friends.
If I can save 7,000 people a week from being killed, I think that's I want to try and get to heaven if possible. I'm hearing I'm not doing well. I hear I'm really at the bottom of the totem pole. But if I can get to heaven, this will be one of the reasons.
If I can get to heaven, it'll be because I brought peace to Ukraine. If I can get to heaven, it'll be because I save 7,000 lives a week. Donald Trump is 79, right? What? I don't know. I'm not 79, but I know a lot of 79-year-olds. I'm related to a couple of 79-year-olds. I'm related to people who are older than 79. And there's one thing that I know. The older you get, the less you care about your earthly belongings and your earthly desires and your material possessions. And the more you start thinking about your legacy and what happens to you when you die. And where exactly are you going to go? This is why the older you get, the more, let's just say, religious you get. The older you get, the more generous you get. This is why Andrew Carnegie spent his entire life amassing the largest fortune ever known to man. And then right before he died, said, I got to give all this stuff away. Because he believed that whole eye of a needle, rich man, heaven, camel thing, whatever. I got to give this all away. I got to buy my way into heaven. Donald Trump is saying, look, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. I'm at the bottom of the totem pole and I want to go to heaven. So what am I going to do? I'm going to save lives. I'm going to save lives in India. I'm going to save lives in Pakistan. I'm going to save lives in the Congo. I'm going to save lives in Azerbaijan. I'm going to save lives in India. I think I said India twice. There's a lot of lives in India to save. It's the most populated country in the entire world. So you got to save the lives, twice as many lives you got to save. And now I'm going to save lives in Ukraine and in Russia. And notice Donald Trump always says Ukraine and in Russia. He goes, I don't care. I don't care who started this war. All I know is that people are dying. Russians, good people, are dying. Ukraine, good people in Ukraine, they're all dying. And they shouldn't be. And we got to stop it. So we got to come to some kind of agreement. And Donald Trump's like, I just want to get into heaven. I mean, tell me you haven't heard that. Tell me you don't know some 79-year-old who's doing whatever they need to do now, cramming at the end. It's like cramming for the test. It's midnight and you're like, oh my God, class is in 8 hours and I know nothing. I've stayed up all night writing papers. I've stayed up all night. I had a paper that was due at 8:30 and it was midnight and I was stumbling home from the bar and I was like, oh, now I got to write this paper. And I didn't get a wink of sleep that night, but I got the paper in and I got an A. It's just how I roll. But I'm telling you, Donald Trump's cramming for the final exam, but it's not A or F. It's heaven or hell. And he's not the only one. I guarantee. When I'm 79, I'll probably be looking around going, man, I'm at the bottom of this totem pole. I'm like, I got to start climbing. And that's probably why Donald Trump has so much energy. In fact, Monica Crowley, you want to talk about a job. You want to talk about an unsung hero of the Trump administration. Let's sing a little song of Monica Crowley. Monica Crowley is in charge of the protocol office, right? Sure, her job, and it's a big job, man. Donald Trump, every time you see Donald Trump on television, which, by the way, is daily, signing some kind of executive order surrounded by women in sports, signing an executive order surrounded by little kids, in the education department, signing an executive order surrounded by Blue Star families or families who've lost, loved ones in Gaza after October 7th. Whenever you see Donald Trump in the Rose Garden, with a lot of people there and there's workers and no tax on tips, whenever he's surrounded by overtime workers, when Donald Trump is there putting up the flagpoles, 2 massive flagpoles, when Donald Trump hosts anybody at the White House, whether it's the Russian leader, whether it's the Ukrainian leader, whether it's the Israeli leader, whether it's whoever, all of that stuff requires a protocol office that makes sure that everyone's where they should be, that everybody's ride is where they should be, that everyone has tickets to everything that they need, that the bathrooms are clean, that there's enough food, that the place settings are there, that there's spare rooms if anyone needs to go take a phone call, that there's goodie bags and baskets, that everything is in order. The protocol at the White House is tough when it's not Donald Trump as the president, but when it is Donald Trump as the president, it's like 10,000 times tougher because that guy never stops. And he's planning stuff like just out of the blue. You were done with one thing and all of a sudden Donald Trump's like, we're going to do this other thing and we're going to do it like in 2 days. And Monica Crowley was talking about that. She's like, I'm in Alaska, where she had to fly to Alaska days earlier to prepare for what is the biggest event probably in Donald Trump's presidency, the Russian president coming to the United States to talk about peace. And then as soon as that's done, she gets on the plane to take a nap and she's like, wait, who's coming when?
We were returning from Alaska, which was a very productive meeting between Presidents Trump and Putin. We were coming back to Washington, D.C., and at about 2 a.m. on Saturday morning, while we were still on the plane, the president was making a series of phone calls around the world, and we heard that President Zelensky was coming to the White House at 1 p.m. on Monday. So we essentially had 36 hours to gather 8 world leaders, including 6 heads of state, gather them at the White House, and make sure every detail was taken care of to ensure the greatest environment, Martha, for the most robust, effective diplomacy. And I think we saw yesterday that only President Trump could convene this kind of gathering of so many world leaders on such short notice in pursuit of peace between Russia and Ukraine. You need a president who's a visionary leader, who is absolutely committed to the peace process, and this president is. I mean, he's already settled about half a dozen other world conflicts around the globe, and this one, as the president has said, has certainly proven to be the most difficult, but he is also incredibly committed to ensuring peace for all of the people in that region.
I mean, look at that. This is, I mean, think about this. Think about the support staff. It's Donald Trump. Yeah, Donald Trump's a great leader. Donald Trump's an amazing leader, but Donald Trump has put together an incredible team. He's got Marco Rubio and JD Vance, and he's got Scott Bessent, and they're all working the deals. They're making sure that peace is happening. He's got Steve Witkoff. He's got the Howard Lutnick, all these people making sure that we're getting the tariffs done, that we're getting these trade deals done, that we're getting peace across the globe, that when there is peace in Ukraine, we're going to have our piece of the pie, and we're going to get those rare earths that we need, and we're going to be able to recoup our losses. And that was a big thing, actually. That's a big part of it. We'll get to that in just a minute. But then you've got the other part of the team, which has to put on all these events. And think about this. This is all going on while Monica Crowley and her team are planning God knows how many events for the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, which is happening, in like 3 months. They've already started with some of these 250 events, and they're going to be doing it all year long. Not to mention the Olympics, not to mention the World Cup. It is insane what this woman has been able to do, and her and her entire team should be applauded. But Donald Trump has had two massive successes, 2 massive victories back to back. And it's something that the media, they don't really like to talk about. You know what they do like to talk about? Donald Trump rewriting history and calling slavery good, which totally did not happen. Donald Trump, the media is trying to tell you that Donald Trump likes slavery. Donald Trump, that's what the media is trying to tell you. The new media narrative now is Donald Trump, he doesn't like DEI. He doesn't like the woke stuff. He basically got rid of all the DEI in all of our Ivy League universities, all of our Ivy League colleges. He got Harvard's still hanging on to some stuff. But he's also out there making sure that we don't have DEI in the military. And he's making sure now, of course, that there's no DEI anywhere in the government. And he's rooting out anybody who has some kind of woke philosophy and is using that to make their decisions, whether it's hiring decisions or governmental decisions or spending decisions or anything. He's go woke, go broke. And he's cleaning up the actual District of Columbia right now with a massive military presence, which, by the way, I have to show you this picture. This is crazy. This was Wolf Blitzer. And I don't know if Wolf Blitzer was like complaining. I assume he was kind of complaining because that's what he just strikes me as the kind of guy that complains. But look at this. Wolf Blitzer posted this and he wrote, "This is what I saw when I drove by Washington, D.C.'s Union Station this morning." This is Wolf Blitzer. He posted a photo and it's Union Station with a Humvee armored vehicle and 1, 2, 3, 4 that I can see, 4 that I can count, National Guard troops. And they're standing in front of this Humvee, fully armored vehicle in Union Station. And here's the thing. All I see is Union Station and the Humvee and the 1, 2, 3, 4 that I can count, National Guard troops. Now, again, Wolf Blitzer wrote, "This is what I saw when I drove by Washington, D.C.'s Union Station this morning." He didn't say it was bad. He didn't say it was good. But the implication is that he doesn't like seeing these folks and these armored vehicles in his nation's capital. I'll tell you what I see. I see Union Station the way I've never seen it before, or at least haven't seen it in a very long time. I spent a lot of time in D.C. Used to live up in D.C., used to work up in D.C., hoping to go back and work in D.C. in a couple of years. In fact, we will. That's going to happen. That's a done deal almost. We're going to be back in D.C. in a couple of years doing our best for this country. But D.C., I've spent a lot of time up there. I go up there several times a year. And I haven't seen Union Station this clean in a long time. What I see when I look at this photo isn't just Union Station with a Humvee fully armored vehicle and 4 brave National Guard troops. What I see is a clean Union Station. There is no graffiti. There is no trash. There are no people loitering. There's no homeless encampments. There's no tents. There's no scary drug addicts scooching around. There's nobody pooping in the bushes. There's no carjackings. I don't see any gang members. I don't see any young thugs, part of a street gang, looking for easy targets. I don't see anything. If I drove by, I would think, wow, I'm in a very safe place. If I walked from Union Station, which thousands upon thousands of Washingtonians do every day, thousands upon thousands of people come into Union Station, which is the equivalent of like Grand Central Station. Grand Central Station to New York is Union Station to DC, and they come in from all over the country. This is where, remember Amtrak Joe Biden would take the train to the Capitol twice. This is where he came, Union Station. And so Amtrak Joe. Old riding the rails Joe Biden. Where was I missed? Oh yeah. So, but this is exactly what you want to walk by. You could be working at the Capitol building till late at night. They don't, because they haven't worked and they haven't been there in weeks. It's basically ghost town. But let's say you're working at the Capitol building late at night. You could safely walk from the Capitol to Union Station and not have to worry about getting attacked, mugged, raped, murdered, shot, caught in the crossfire of a gang shooting, accosted by homeless people and drug addicts. You don't have to worry about any of those things. Why? Because Donald Trump, in a matter of days, has come in and cleaned the place up. And he did it with the help of the National Guard and these fully armored Humvees. And Wolf Blitzer says, this is what I saw when I drove by Washington, D.C.'s Union Station this morning. Again, he didn't say it was a bad thing, but he didn't say it was a good thing. There's no thank God, this is what I saw when I drove by Washington, D.C.'s Union Station this morning. There's no thank you, President Trump, for using our brave men and women of the National Guard to make Washington, D.C.'s Union Station great again. There was none of that. There was just this kind of underlying insult about how it's a lot. What's scarier? Okay, this is going to depend on your political. This is going to look. I think there was another picture. Yeah, here we go. Look at this. Here's a picture of Union Station with trash, with homeless encampments, with people in tents sleeping, with trash cans everywhere. What's scarier? Wolf Blitzer never took a picture of these tents while he was driving to work and posted, this is what I saw while driving by Union Station on my way to work. He never did that. The Democrats prefer, this is home to the Democrats. If they walk by and there's homeless people, drug addicts, trash, folks sleeping out in tents because they have no place to go in the snow, mind you. In the winter, if you have a capital city that is so poor and so broke that its residents can't afford housing, they've got to sleep out on the streets dirty and smelly and trash cans all over, using the parks as public toilets. Wolf Blitzer had no problem with this. The left has no problem with it. They're fine with this. But God forbid there should be a safe haven made possible by the American military. They're scared of the American military. They don't like the American military, which is weird because pretty much all the Democrats got rich buying stocks and sending the American military to war. A lot of Republicans did that too. Like our good friend, and opponent, John Rutherford. Before I get to the history, you know what? Speaking of history, I haven't played this in a couple days, so I want to make sure. This is why Democrats and rhinos hate the military. They only like the military when they're buying stocks. They only like the military when they're buying stocks. They don't like the military keeping them safe at home. They don't like the military on January 6th when there's protesters coming into the Capitol. They don't like the military getting rid of homeless people and drug addicts and gang members and murderers and carjackers in Washington, D.C. But they love the military when they're investing in their stock portfolio.
So one of the committees where people have a lot of information is the Appropriations Committee, because they can view almost any vector of government funding. And so, this is Mr. Rutherford's office. He's on the Ethics Committee and the Appropriations Committee. 152 stock trades. Stocks go through the roof. And, actually bought Raytheon stock the day that Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, imagine if every American could make money off of war.
Yeah, setting aside the whole shame and ethics questions.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's no ethics questions because he's on the ethics committee. That's the scam. That's the Rutherford way. John Rutherford, my congressman currently, and only for the next 363 days. John Rutherford, who we're looking to retire next year in August of 2026. John Rutherford went to Washington, D.C., a somewhat middle-class man. He is now, 10 years later, filthy friggin' rich. And Matt Gaetz just told you why. And one of the reasons he's been able to get away with it is because A, he's on the Appropriations Committee and he knows where the money's going to be spent. He knows when it's going to be spent, and he can call up his stockbroker and make the appropriate trades right before the announcements are made, right before the contracts are signed, so that he can make bank. Not just bank, but bank off of the taxpayer dollars. Because remember, when Raytheon stock, for example, goes through the roof, John Rutherford buys it. We understand that then when Russia invades Ukraine, Raytheon's going to be a power player. They're going to get government contracts. And all of a sudden, that money, government money, your money, goes to Raytheon. Their stock price goes up. John Rutherford and many others, they are the ones who walk away with the profits. Not you, not me. Because we didn't have that insider information. Only John Rutherford and the folks in Congress did. But if you think to yourself, well, that's got to be some kind of ethical violation, don't think that, because John Rutherford also sits on the Ethics Committee. And because he sits on the Ethics Committee, he's been able to get all 152 of his Congressional Stock Act violations dismissed. Because when you're on the Ethics Committee, you look out for each other. And that's exactly what's been going on. And that's exactly what we're trying to stop. And we need your help, by the way. So if you can, go to markkforcongress.com because we need all the help we can get. We had a fantastic event the other day. We raised a boatload of cash. We need a shipload. So we've got like a dinghy full right now, but we need the Carnival cruise ship filled with cash if we're taking on one of these elitist millionaires, which is exactly what we're doing. So please take a minute to go to markkforcongress.com. Any donation that you can make, it doesn't have to be the $3,500 maximum allowable by the FEC. That would be great, but we'll take 10. We'll take 25. We'll take 50. Do I hear 50? Do I have 75? Do I got 75? $100? I sold for $100. Whatever you got, go to markkforcongress.com right now and help us fight the people who don't want to be fought. Help us fight the people who are sitting up in Capitol Hill in their offices, taking advantage of the system, taking advantage of you, taking advantage of me, taking advantage of war, and making bank off of it. Help us with a small donation so that we can get rid of congressional stock trading once and for all. And then we won't have to worry about it. We won't have to worry about it in the slightest. But I digress. So Wolf Blitzer doesn't like all of these people in Washington, D.C. He doesn't like that. But Donald Trump's like, too bad. Too bad, so sad. We are cleaning up DC. We are getting rid of these folks. And it's something that he promised he would do since the election. In fact, Todd Blanche, who's in charge of it, said, look, this is something this should come as no surprise to anybody.
President Trump's goal from day one has been to make this city safe, to make this city a place that we all enjoy being, to make this city a place that world leaders who come to see the president come in and are jealous of, and that's something that we are proud of. And for example, just last night, we arrested over 80 people in this city, including an MS-13 gang member. We took 9 firearms off the street. Since we started this effort, we've arrested 4 people on suspected homicide, over 50 people for drugs charges, and that's in August, and it's just been going on for just over a week. And so what our goal is to empower the police department and empower the leadership in D.C. to know that they can make this city safe again, and it will not be completely safe in 30 days, but we're already seeing results every single night and every single day that the community loves. And by the way, Laura, the same liberal media that's out there criticizing us and saying that we're doing something wrong and we shouldn't have the National Guard, they're the same liberal media that turn off the mics and jump for joy because they can now go to a restaurant without fear of getting mugged. They can now go home and go for a walk with their dog and their children without feeling like they're going to get have somebody, a juvenile or somebody come and sucker punch them. And so this is a great thing for D.C. It's a great thing for America. And President Trump has talked about doing this for years. And so it's a good thing that he's doing, and we're happy to support him.
Yeah, we all, and that's 100% true. What he said is 100% true. The same people that go on television every single night for years. I mean, they would just ridicule Donald Trump for years on TV, and then when they had to leave at like midnight or 1, they would run to their cars. They would be looking over their shoulders. They were scared. Now, Donald Trump is cleaning up the city. They're going on television. They're still lambasting Donald Trump. They're still yelling about Donald Trump. They're still saying Donald Trump's a bad guy because he's trying to make DC safe again. But this time, they walk to their cars and they don't look over their shoulders. And they don't need escorts. And they go out to dinner and they don't have to worry about getting mugged. They're thankful that Donald Trump has made DC safe again while they go on TV and they go into the press briefing rooms and they ridicule and make fun of and criticize the way that he's protected them in their own home and workplace. It's really incredible. Once again, as in not credible. That's what we're learning. That's our new buzzword for the media. But like I said, it's not just DC cities; it's the museums too. President Donald Trump will not be happy until America is exactly the way that it used to be, the way it was when he left it. And he wants to make sure that all woke nonsense, all DE&I jargon and BS is gone from everywhere, including our museums. And there's a lot of museums in Washington, D.C. So Donald Trump went on Truth Social and wrote, "The museums throughout Washington and all over the country are essentially the last remaining segment of woke. The Smithsonian is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future. We are not going to allow this to happen, and I have instructed my attorneys to go through the museums and start the exact same process that has been done with colleges and universities where tremendous progress has been made. This country cannot be woke because woke is broke. We have the hottest country in the world, and we want people to talk about it, including in our museums." Now, immediately, as you can imagine, the left-wing incredible media and also the left-wing, I guess you would say, incredible Democrat Party glommed on to this particular statement by Donald Trump and tried to twist it and turn it and spin it to where Donald Trump said slavery was good. And that's not hyperbole. Listen to Eric Swalwell. Yes, that Eric Swalwell who farted on TV and also slept with a Chinese spy. Not only slept with a Chinese spy, but actually hired the Chinese spy to work in his office and then slept with the Chinese spy. So it was twofold. First thing he did was he hired the Chinese spy, which I'm thinking is bad enough as it is. Then what he did was he slept with her because he was like, you know what, hiring her is not enough. I'm going to bring her into my home. All while he sat on the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee. But I digress. Here's what he had to say about Donald Trump wanting to clean up the museums.
Who is this guy? Is he a publicist for slavery? Like a lobbyist on behalf of like slavery? It doesn't make...
Listen to this. Who is this guy? This guy meaning the President of the United States, by the way. Is he a publicist for slavery? I don't even know what that means. Is he a lobbyist on behalf of slavery?
Who is this guy? Is he a publicist for slavery? Like a lobbyist on behalf of like slavery? It doesn't make any sense that he would want to erase one of the ugliest things that's ever happened in America and educate our children, especially about how we make sure it doesn't happen again. He's done the same thing with another ugly day in America, January 6th. He's tried to erase that day and take the heroes of that day, the police officers, and make them the villains so that he also erases his own responsibility. This is what he does.
This is not, oh, by the way, this is all just, I can't even tell you the amount of lies. It smells like that time that he pooted on national television, but nowhere in this tweet or nowhere in this Truth Social post did Donald Trump say he's trying to erase slavery. He said, the Smithsonian is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future. He's saying we need to have good with the bad, but it's all just bad. No one's trying to erase slavery. No one's a lobbyist for slavery. That doesn't even make sense. What he's trying to do is say these woke institutions, which, by the way, do you remember the 1619 Project? Nobody had a problem with that. When they wanted to rewrite our history and say America was actually founded in 1619 when the first slave ships landed here, the New York Times, man, they wrote a whole thing about it. The New York Times made it their entire, they dedicated their existence to the 1619 Project. Or Project 1916 or whatever it is. They made that, they wanted to convince everybody that we should no longer celebrate 1492 or 1776, that America was founded when the slave ships came to our country and landed on our shores. And that should be our history. That's what they wanted to teach. And that's fine and all that, but have some criticism. Donald Trump comes along and says, I want some positivity in our museums. And they're like, you're a publicist for slavery, which is actually the opposite. He's saying, I don't want as much publicity for slavery. Yes, it's something we need to cover in our museums, but let's cover some of the good stuff too. Our good buddy Scott Jennings was on CNN, and he, of course, was asked about this too. And here's what he said. Let me pull this up real quick. Here we go.
My personal view is slavery was a reprehensible institution. I agree with your words that it was our original sin. We also fought a war to eradicate it and to get over it as a country. And that was a necessary thing that happened, and a lot of people died, and we did eradicate it, and that's a good thing. I think what he's asking is, in our museums, what defines us? Are we going to be defined by the worst moment or the worst institution or the worst mistake we ever made? Or are we going to be defined by what we've done moving forward to get over it and to become the greatest nation on the earth? My belief is that he wants to look at these museums, not because he wants to do away with the idea that slavery occurred, but that he wants to ask a very simple question. Are we going to present ourselves as being exceptional or not? And I think he believes there is an effort by some to continue to try to define us from our worst moment instead of to try to focus and define us based on our best moments, which started when we eradicated slavery and began to move forward as the light of the world. And so that's what I think.
Museums, that's what makes us an exceptional nation, is because they tell the history and the story of our country, and therefore, these horrible, horrific moments in our history. The original sin, as Abby talked about, when it comes to slavery, has we of course did eradicate it, but look where we've come today. And I think those museums, like to your point, make America exceptional. And in museums all around the world that document atrocities, whether it be, from Nazi Germany to eradicating slavery here in the United States, you have to learn the lessons of the past. And to deny it is to defend it.
I don't think he's denying it. And Bachi may want to comment on this as well. But I think what he wants to ask is a simple question. As we present our history, are we spending most of our time focused on something terrible? Are we going to spend more time as we enter our 250th anniversary focused on what this country has done to improve the lives of every single person who lives here? We are the light of the world for a reason, because we're an improving commodity.
And that is something that's really poignant, is Donald Trump is looking at the Smithsonian, he's looking at our museums, and he's saying, it's all bad stuff. It's all negative. No one said slavery was good. Nobody said slavery wasn't a original sin, a blight on humanity, all those things. Nobody's walking around and saying slavery's great. Man, you know what we need in this country? Bring back slavery. Nobody's saying that, especially Donald Trump. What he's saying is, and Scott Jennings brings it up really well, he goes, there was slavery. It was bad. It was an atrocity. It should never have happened. But there was a war where brave men stood up and fought, not just to eradicate slavery and to free the slaves, but also to keep the country together. Because they could have easily said, fine, we're going to split in two. You guys can have slaves. We ain't gonna. But they said, no, we don't want you to have slaves at all. And no, you're not leaving the country. And it was a bloody, brutal war. And Americans fought Americans, and many Americans died. And President Abraham Lincoln was killed because of it. Which, by the way, I'd like to point out, Republican. I mean, let's just call it like it is. I mean, I'm just gonna point out the obvious once again. The Democrats are the ones that brought slaves to the United States of America. The Democrats are the one that fought a war to keep slavery in the United States of America. The Republicans are the ones who said slavery is bad. The Republicans are the ones who fought to keep this nation together. And the Republicans are the ones who emancipated the slaves. Yet you've got people like Gavin Newsom and Eric Swalwell. I don't know what it is about California. California I mean, I know there's good people in California, but the people they send to political office is just horrible. Gavin Newsom reposted Donald Trump's statement. He wrote, Trump's GOP has already called slavery a workforce development program. Now he is trying to erase slavery from U.S. history. Again, it's Gavin Newsom's party that was the party of the KKK, of the slave owners, of the traders. It was Gavin Newsom's party that fought to keep slavery in the Civil War, and it was Gavin Newsom's party that did not want Abraham Lincoln to emancipate the slaves. And when he did, it was Gavin Newsom's party that shot him in the head. That's all I'm saying. So, are you with Donald Trump, who says slavery was bad, but there's a lot of great things we need to celebrate? Or are you with Gavin Newsom, who says, I'm a part of this party that has done terrible, horrible, no good, very bad things, and I'm not even going to apologize for it. I'm going to try to blame it on the other guy. Speaking of Gavin Newsom, by the way, Gavin Newsom, there's just so much to talk about today. Gavin Newsom, there was this poll that came out. I wonder if I have the clip. There was a poll that came out, and it was about Gavin Newsom and he has a, look, and I'm not going to fault him for this because this is how Donald Trump won too. But Gavin Newsom is stealing Donald Trump's playbook because he wants to get to the White House. And Gavin Newsom is, where is this? I have it here somewhere. Oh, here it is. It's CNN polled people about Gavin Newsom's social media strategy. Listen to this.
Yeah, I think it absolutely has been working in terms of generating attention, which is what he's trying to do, right? I mean, take a look here. Let's take a look right at the @GovPress office followers on X. That's, of course, where you get those sort of the account where Newsom posts those Trump-style mocking types of tweets. Get this. That account, get this, up 450% in terms of the number of followers since mid-June. And it's not just on Twitter, X, where Newsom is gaining. Even on TikTok and Instagram, his followers are up over 1 million since January alone. My goodness gracious. And more than that, Laura, more than that, what about Google? What about those Google searches for him? Get this, daily Google searches for Gavin Newsom up like a rocket. What are we talking about? Since June 1, up 1,300%. Compared to August 1st, look at that, up 500%. So the bottom line is, in politics, especially if you're thinking of entering in 2028, it's all about generating attention. And so far, Gavin Newsom has done a good job at generating attention.
And look, this is something, and he's 100% right. Gavin Newsom is stealing Donald Trump's style. He's stealing Donald Trump's playbook. He's making fun of Donald Trump. He's talking about Donald Trump. He's attacking Donald Trump. And what's happening to him? He's getting more attention. He's getting 1 million followers on X. He's getting hundreds of thousands of people watching and retweeting him. He's up with thousands of percentage points in the Google search rankings and trends. And that is 100% true. When you have attention, you get stuff. If you want to win in politics, you've got to get attention for yourself. You've got to make attention. You've got to steal attention from the other guy. That's how you get ahead. Donald Trump knew how to do it. Donald Trump is the best person probably in history at getting attention on himself. And it worked for his campaign. Do you remember when he worked the McDonald's drive-thru and he stole attention away from Kamala Harris? That was Kamala's issue. McDonald's was Kamala's issue. Kamala was the one who could have gone to the drive-thru and worked at McDonald's. Kamala was the one who could have set the record straight by putting on the apron and shoving fries into the little sleeve and sticking them out the window. She didn't do it. Donald Trump did. Joe Biden called everybody garbage, so Donald Trump's the one that drove to a rally in Wisconsin in a garbage truck. He drew attention to himself. He knows how to do it better than anyone. Gavin Newsom is trying to draw attention to himself so he can be the front runner for the Democrat Party in 2028. And right now it seems like that's exactly what's happening. Gavin Newsom, despite the fact that he's an idiot, despite the fact that he's a horrible governor, despite the fact that he's let California burn, despite the fact that he doesn't care about his constituents, despite the fact that California has the highest taxes, despite the fact that all these terrible, horrible, no good, very bad things are going on, the crime, the drugs, the homelessness, all of that is happening on Gavin Newsom's watch, but he's getting attention for himself. He started a podcast. Why? Well, Donald Trump went on a podcast. He got elected president. Donald Trump went on the Joe Rogan podcast for 3 hours. And Gavin Newsom saw that and said, you know what? I probably should start a podcast. And Gavin Newsom is now getting everything he wanted. Which brings me to tonight. Because tonight, I will be teaching you exactly what Gavin Newsom has already learned. Not from me. I wouldn't teach Gavin Newsom this stuff. But you. Attention is how you get what you want. If you want money, you need attention from customers and clients. If you want fame, you need attention from your audience and from potential fans. If you want access or opportunities, or if you want to make connections, you need something that can not only bring yourself attention, but bring attention to those people, something you can offer them. And a podcast is, in my humble opinion, and also really just, in reality, the easiest and the best way to get all of those things. Whether it's more money, whether it's more access, whether it's more opportunities, whether it's more connections, podcasting is your golden ticket, better than any other form of social media. That's why Donald Trump went on the podcast circuit. That's why Gavin Newsom started a podcast. That's why I have not one but 2 daily podcasts. And that's why you need one if you don't have one, no matter what it is that you do. You could do it better, you could make more money at it, and you could grow it faster if you have a podcast. And that's why tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I am hosting, free of charge, Podcast Profits Pro. There's a link in the description of this video. If you'd like to join for free, you can go to podcastprofitspro.com. Podcastprofitspro.com. It starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. All you have to do is register. I'm going to go through everything I do every single day to create podcasts that people like, that they listen to, that they enjoy, that grow my audience, that grow my output, that grow my influence, that grow my bank account. And most importantly, I'm going to show you how you can and why you should do it too. It happens tonight at 8. It's free. You should be there. Podcastprofitspro.com. You don't have to pay, but you do have to register. We need to know how many people to account for. Podcastprofitspro.com. If you're listening to the podcast, show you how you can and why you sense. And Ron DeSantis, I'll have that on quick access. But anyway,
of America, and they're trained to do this. So you have massive numbers of people that have claimed there's any type of law enforcement. It's like this massive bureaucratic maze.
Yeah, and that is something that is really wherever they wanted to go. That's why these people come from across the globe. They could have, if you're in India, you could go to China and seek asylum. You could go to Great Britain. You go to anywhere in Europe. To subscribe to this channel, if you haven't already, make sure you're listening. If you're listening on iTunes or you're listening on Spotify, wherever you happen to be, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because go to podcastprofitspro.com and check it out. We would love to have you. I'll teach you everything I know about the best form of social media, the best way to get and make him feel guilty about it. He never does. And they're going to try to rewrite history in a way that benefits them. Don't believe them. Believe me. Believe us. That's why we're here every single day. We're here to tell you